back. PB betting episode 6 of the season, I believe already. Mr. Paisley, we're here to break down week 3 already. How are we doing today?
Doing good, Case. Doing good. Episode 6, yeah, flying by every week. These football weeks definitely go quick with the NFL Sunday, Monday, breaking down here midweek, and then we got games a couple days. So just love this cycle, love to be in it, but definitely very time-consuming and taking up a lot of energy, but gotta love it.
Yeah, exactly. And believe it or not, technically for some teams after this week will already be a quarter through the season. Of course, not everybody, and there's bye weeks involved. So we're not quite there. But after week 3, a lot of teams will have 3 games underway. So starting to finally get to that point of the season where we're going to get some conference play and some games that start to, real matter in conference.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely getting away from some of the absolute cupcakes. Hopefully diving into some of these games here. Got some nice games on the slate, but yeah, definitely just learn each more about some of these teams each week, and should get another great data set with some of these games coming up this Saturday.
And as always, we appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Feel free to give us a follow on Twitter or subscribe on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, Paisley and I, we try to do 2 episodes a week. This is our preview, week 3, and then either Saturday, or I guess I should say Sunday or Monday, we'll have our recap of week 3, and then so on and so on. So 2 episodes, recap and preview every week. So we appreciate that. This week, we have a decent slate. I guess there's a game on Thursday night, North Carolina State at Wake Forest, little ACC matchup there. We got some games on Friday. I don't think any of them are on our slate, maybe at the end, but we'll jump, I guess, right to Saturday. One of the better games of the week, number 12, Clemson, which is a 3-point favorite going on the road to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's looked pretty good in their first couple games. Haynes King, they got the win over Colorado. They're coming off of a pretty good season last year, but they really kind of wanted to make that step this year. And then Clemson, on the other hand, we all know they were supposed to be a possible national contender. Really struggled against Troy last week. Looked like shit, just to be honest. And they are a 3-point favorite. Paisley, what are your thoughts here? Could Clemson bounce back and get a statement win, or do you expect this game to go back and forth?
Yeah, this one's interesting. I'm still tugging back and forth myself on this game because of the number. You got to look at these teams with the spread as we do here on the show. So opened up around 7 or 8. Now it's come all the way down to 3. So a lot of Georgia Tech money, and for good reason. It's a bad matchup for Clemson, who still cannot stop the run. They really struggled last week against Troy, stopping the run, and they have the guys to do it. But it's just I'm not sure what's going on with them. And this is going to be a run heavy. A lot of motion, a lot of misdirection. So this is not the team you want to see if you're having trouble stopping the run in your first 2 games. Clemson's offense stuck in mud as well with Clay Klubnik coming back. Just doesn't look like fluid. It's very choppy. Don't really have a run game. The receivers are a little banged up on the outside, struggling to find consistency there. There was a rain delay in the Troy game, so not to excuse everything they did because they looked pretty terrible before. I think it actually saved them because they got to reset a little bit and stop Troy's momentum. So this one's fascinating. It's tough because I really did like Georgia Tech in the matchup going forward. I wish I would have grabbed an earlier number. I didn't know it was going to plummet this much. But now you start talking Clemson -3, -2.5. I mean, this was a potential championship team before the season. They have not looked up to it the first 2 weeks. We were talking about overreactions, underreactions. Is it just a little bit of an overreaction with Clemson, or are their true colors going to show here? So I think at the current number, it's hard not to look at Clemson, who this spread was 7-8. Maybe if they look good, their first 2 weeks could have been 9-10. Now it's all the way down to 3. You don't have to win by, a touchdown plus. So I'm still battling this number. I kind of like the over, actually. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I think Clemson's offense hopefully gets back on track. I think Georgia Tech, like I said, should have success in the run game. So I think anything under that 55 key at 52.5 right now, I'd maybe look to over. And then by game time, I'm going to just keep watching this number, keep seeing if it comes down. But I'm kind of leaning towards Clemson, even though it's a scary thing to do right now. But if there's a game they should show up, it should have been last week. But now this one, you're going on the road, you need it. Maybe they just need that little more motivation coming off of that LSU loss. So I do kind of lean a little bit Clemson, but this one's just a really tough one.
Yeah, that's where my thought process is. I feel like if maybe that game against Troy will light a flare a little bit with Dabo's squad, and Clemson will get it going, and they'll figure out the rhythm of where they're supposed to be this year. I think they're definitely, on paper, they're way more talented, like you said, than Georgia Tech. They should be able to cover the spread. if not, even by more. Asked me before that Troy game, I probably would have been all over Clemson just because they're the better team, but I don't know now. It's going to be tough. This is like a Super Bowl game for Georgia Tech. I was looking at their schedule. If they get through Clemson, or really even if they don't, I mean, things just really open up for them. They have Temple, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, their next three, and then their season. I mean, they avoid Miami, they avoid Florida State, they avoid even like SMU. Not that SMU is that great, but they have a very favorable schedule. So this is a huge game for Georgia Tech. It just helps that they're at home. I do think it's going to be close, and I wanted to pick the upset. We were kind of talking about it before the show, but I'm with you. I think I have to lean Clemson. I think they will find a way to bounce back. It will be fun to watch, though. It'll see what Klubnik could do, see how he plays. He looked terrible the first couple of weeks. This is a big game for both teams, but in the end, I just have a little bit enough faith. I think Clemson gets the win, and I think they get the cover.
Yeah, if there's any game they should, it has to be this one. Like if they come out and lay another egg, okay, then I think that's just who they are. But you're just kind of banking, if you're a Clemson fan or backer in this game, that the first two games kind of were a little fluky. They maybe were holding stuff back, a little choppy, not really playing up their standards. Now there's no excuses. You've got to go into enemy territory here and look good. So if there's ever a game to bet Clemson, this might be one of the last ones before if the wheels really fall off. So, but a fascinating game. It's going to be really cool to see that one at a noon start in Georgia Tech. Atmosphere should be electric for that one.
Yeah, no, it should be great and big, and they deserve a big home game like this. A huge game for Georgia Tech. Big shout out to them. Also, noon game, Big Ten going on the road at SEC Wisconsin. This is, I think, a part of the home and home they played last year, going to Alabama. Alabama, a 20.5-point favorite. Total is 46.5. This is another game I'm kind of torn about because similar to Clemson in a way with Alabama, we all saw what happened in week one. They played terrible. They lost to Florida State by a couple of touchdowns. Florida State really just dominated them in multiple aspects of that game. They did not look like true Alabama. And then on the other side, you have Wisconsin, who is not all that great by any means. They struggled. I think they beat Miami, Ohio by 17 week one. I can't remember who they played last week, but it's going to be an interesting matchup. This is just a ton of points. I don't expect Wisconsin to win this game. If they did, then, right. I really have no statement on that. Just DeBoer should not even board the I guess they won't need to, but he shouldn't even coach another game at Alabama. If they can't find a way to win this game. This game is just interesting because of the spread. It's kind of just large enough where you kind of want to take Wisconsin, but then again, we might see the angry Alabama that we saw last week trying to run it up and put, 60, 70 points on the board. So I could see a scenario like that happening. Maybe a play with the over then, Paisley. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, this is another great matchup here. And what we're trying to do with some of these top teams is really find out the truth of these teams. Like, is it legit how bad they looked week one, week two, or is that just an anomaly? And are they going to get back to, their talent themselves? Clemson, I have my worries, like I stated, but Alabama, I kind of actually did really like that performance last week. Unlike Clemson's Troy performance, where they were really playing with their food, they just didn't leave a doubt in that game. The offense looked really good. Now, it was UL Monroe, who's not a great Sun Belt team, so it's not 100% back in the picture, and they're going to win the national title. But I think they just did enough where they really listened to the critics, really got back on track, and you can't really doubt a 71-0 win or whatever they won by. So I feel like Alabama got some mojo back. They're feeling good. They're at home now. They got Wisconsin coming in, who they played really good last year. And I think last year's team wasn't as talented as this year's Alabama team and stuff. So I just think it's a bad matchup again for Wisconsin coming down now to Alabama. Noon start. I think Alabama's going to be ready to go. They're going to be looking to put up another big number. So I actually do feel pretty confident in Alabama here, laying the lumber here and winning by 3 scores or more. I just don't think Wisconsin overall. Their quarterback was banged up in the first game. I think he sat out the second game. He might be coming back, that transfer that they had. So he's not bad, but I just think of makeup. I think it's just two completely different rosters. And I think if Alabama plays to peak, it could be 28-35. If they don't, then you could definitely see them falling short of the number here. But I do have faith in that they got their swagger back a little bit. They look good at home. Now you got another home game against a little bit better opponent. So I do trust Alabama as at least bouncing back in the right direction. Maybe not top 10 material, but I think they have another good showing here against Wisconsin and cover the 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and to the point where Kalen DeBoer, I think, really wants this game. You kind of have an opportunity now with a Power 4 team coming in. It's one thing you do it against Louisiana Monroe, but could you keep that momentum? Could you keep the offensive clicking? And that'll be the statement. I think if Alabama could, they're going to want to cover this game, which is why I also agree on this one. I think Alabama will find a way to cover. I think they'll try to run it up. Will Wisconsin be able to keep it, slow them the offense down a little bit? I mean, the one thing Wisconsin usually has is a decently well-rounded defense. So that'll be the thing to watch. But yeah, I agree. I think Alabama will find a way to cover this. Also, they kind of bait you at this 20.5. It's like they want you to I feel like take Alabama, but I think they're going to win by 3-4 touchdowns also.
Yeah. And the only thing I worried about last week about Alabama is sometimes it's worse to play at home if your fan base is not happy and they're really upset, because if it's a little tight game, or the fans going to get on you, they're going to start booing, or you're going to tighten up as a coaching staff and as players. But I think they did enough to get that off the back this game. I think they should be free and easy. But yeah, like you said, I think Alabama looks good in this spot. They wanted to prove it against a Power 4 opponent. I think this is a lot more than just UL Monroe. So I do like Alabama. It's scary to take them, but I think that was more Florida State week 1. If we look back to that, I think Florida State's going to be a pretty good team. It was a bad matchup. They were fired up after what happened, like first game of the year. If they would have played Florida State maybe 6th, 7th game, it would have been a different story. They didn't know the offense, Gus Malzahn, what he was running. It was a whole thing. So I give more excuses and more leeway to Alabama in that one. So let's see if it's legit or not coming up on this week.
Yeah, I agree that I do think Florida State's a good team. My issue with Alabama is also just more the way that they lost, and the way the film, the way they reacted, the players, just the whole, not just the on the field stuff, but just the whole, surrounding with DeBoer, the press conference, the linebacker. I forget what it was at that corner or whatever that was like just jogging across the field. It looked bad, but I do agree. I think Florida State is pretty good. I think we'll keep seeing that obviously this week and next week and how the season progresses. But yeah, I tend to agree. I think Bama. I think they'll find a way to roll here. All right, third game. We're cruising through these. This is SEC matchup. Paisley, we were at this one a few years ago. We got number 6 Georgia going to Tennessee, number 15 Tennessee. This line also came down all the way down to 3.5. Georgia now just a slight favor. They got to go on the road. It's going to be a tough environment. College game days there, so they got all the hype around it. Totals 49.5. These are two teams that we really don't know a whole lot about yet either. They're both 2-0. Both kind of played cupcake games. I know Tennessee played Syracuse week 1, so a little bit of test there. But this should be able to answer, I think, a lot of questions on not only these two teams, but just kind of who's in play for the SEC, all around.
Yeah, I like how they scheduled this one early in the year to really get a sense of both these teams here. This one I actually do feel a little more confident than my Clemson pick. I'm still very worried about that. I don't know if I'm going to play it, but this one, I actually like that the line's coming down a lot. I actually do like Georgia here in this spot. I like Tennessee as a whole. I think they're better than last year, obviously, with Nico leading the charge here. I think they got a better quarterback to run the system and stuff, but I just think Tennessee's a little fool's gold at the moment right now. I think they look good against Syracuse. The box score was a little misleading. That game was kind of closer for the whole game, and then they finally got outside the number. They looked good, obviously, last week against East Tennessee State. I think they played. But I think Georgia, now, they could really prove me wrong because they really haven't looked good against two very inferior opponents, in Marshall and Austin Peay, I think it was, and they really couldn't run the ball, which is very alarming and stuff. But I think Georgia doesn't take those games seriously, and there's records to prove that in the past with Kirby Smart. They don't really want to run up the score. They don't really try that hard. They kind of save up their energy and their time for the game. I think of last year when they went to Texas. Remember that game? They were getting all doubted and everything, and then they showed up and they were like a completely new team. Like they really do kind of load up all their bullets for these big games and big spots, like the game we were at a couple of years ago, Case, and they were about a 9-point favorite, went on the road, cleaned house, and they won by like 30. So not to say they're going to do that here, but I do trust Georgia more, kind of playing a little coy, playing a little cards against their chest here. And I think they'll have a good enough performance just to cover the 3.5. You don't have to cover 7, 10, 14 and lay a big number. But I do think the money on Tennessee at 7-8, kind of like Georgia Tech, makes sense. I mean, it's a bigger number. They're at home. It makes sense. I think they're pretty solid teams and good programs, but I think I do trust Georgia here, who has a really good defense. I think their offense has to do enough here in this game, but I don't think Tennessee's offense is going to explode like it did the first two games. So I'm actually very confident with the under 2. I played this at 50.5 earlier in the week down to 49. And I do like Georgia minus 3.5 in this one. So I like the under and Georgia correlated here.
Good analysis. And yeah, good point on Georgia kind of last year, because remember that was coming off that like 6 overtime game against Georgia Tech. And then, they lose that game. Everybody's all of a sudden talking about missing the playoff. And then, they end up going, they end up, winning that game. They go on, they beat Texas. They end up, having a pretty good season. Didn't end the way they wanted, but they really found a way to bounce back. It seems like Kirby does do well with playing up to your opponents, showing up for the big games, but also then the alternative is sometimes playing down to them. So I agree. I don't think they're going to be, in other words, I think they will be prepared. I think Georgia will show their true colors this game. My only concern, I was going to bring it up, but you did anyway, was a little bit of struggle week 1 and week 2, more so last week, winning 28-6. But I kind of went back and forth. But maybe if this game was at night, it was a sold out crowd at Tennessee and some, more hype around it, I could, be a little more convinced that Tennessee could try to keep this thing at least close to cover. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're 3-0 Paisley on agreement here, which never ends well. But I also am going to lean Georgia here on the -3.5.
Yeah, and I think just also, like, I'm not a big trends guy or, what's happened in the last 10 years, but I feel like Georgia's kind of has Tennessee's number. Now, Georgia had some unbelievable teams and nobody was really beating them, but I just feel like even that year we went out there, they had a good shot. Last year, people thought, no, this is the team, they're going to do it. And I just feel like Georgia's always has Tennessee's number. I don't know what it is, but I feel like they just got them well prepared, well schemed up, and Heupel's offense just doesn't seem to always have a good game against Kirby Smart's defense. So I think it's going to be a grinder. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I think Georgia gets it done over the 3.5 and also the under the total, like I mentioned.
Except for that first play, I think, Paisley, when we were there,
Right.
they took it for that 75-yard house call run. What run was that? Caleb Johnson? Which running back was that?
Or Caleb Johnson was in Iowa. I forget. They might have been Dylan Sampson, maybe, who was on the Browns.
Yeah,
now.
okay.
But that was their only positive play the entire game we were there.
That was awesome. If anyone's listening that hasn't gone to Tennessee and is considering it, highly recommend. It was a great experience, even with the loss. Great. Knoxville was great bars, great atmosphere. They do a good job down there. So room for Tennessee, but not this week. I think Georgia covers. All right, moving right along. We got the this is one of my favorites of the season just to watch. It's usually one of the sloppiest games of the year. Blue collar, tough, low scoring. This one may not be so low scoring. Last year I got absolutely screwed on it in this game. Block punts, pick sixes. We got the backyard brawl in Morgantown. Pittsburgh 6.5-point favorite going to West Virginia, who's coming off a devastating loss to the Ohio Bobcats. Rich Rodriguez leading the charge there first year. It's a rebuilding year for them. Total 57.5. I didn't say. Paisley, always a fun one. Pittsburgh, supposed to be my surprising team. I'm still not too high, but I think I like Pittsburgh this year. I do think they're going to win this game, but 6.5 points is a lot of points, especially in a rivalry game like this.
Yeah, this one also started a lot of line movement this week, but this one was 3.5, 4, went all the way up to 7.5, came back down a little bit. So again, we're playing them at the current numbers. If this was different numbers and different time that we were recording, then it'd be a different story. But at the 6.5, I'm with you. It's a little high, but I watched that whole West Virginia game because I had the West Virginia and Ohio over. I don't think a lot of people probably sat down to watch that whole game. And West Virginia looked really bad. I mean, that was an Ohio defense that was not that good and got carved up by Rutgers. And West Virginia couldn't move the ball. The lefty quarterback is just not much of a throwing threat. They're a very run-heavy team. So if you could just stop the run and load up there, West Virginia doesn't really have a lot of other options. But you're right, rivalry game at home now, plus around a touchdown. It's hard to not look at the underdog here. So I would lean Pittsburgh actually in the game. I think they're impressive, like you said, a good surprise team at the ACC. I think that was a good call by you, Case. And they're starting to play like it. I think they're really a different team this year. I think they're going to prove it here in this game because I think it's just I'm buying one team and selling the other. But, at the 6.5, 7 price, it is a little pricey. But I do think Pittsburgh's a well-rounded team. I just don't like what West Virginia's their trajectory and where they're going right now. So, again, a good data point to maybe look at and watch the game if you don't want to bet on it of these two teams to see who's legit, who's not. But that West Virginia game against Ohio really just gave me pause for concern. They did not look good at all the entire game. They only scored 10 points against Ohio. So, going to be rough here against the Pittsburgh defense that's supposed to be pretty solid for ACC standards. So I think Pittsburgh gets it done. I think they get right around that 7 to 10 point margin. So I'll take Pittsburgh here on a lean. And I don't really know what to do with the total. Honestly, I'm just going to leave that go for now.
Yeah, it's a good point. I also lean Pittsburgh. I wanted to take West Virginia. I thought maybe be a little more low scoring because of the rivalry game, and it's always dangerous to do that. But yeah, as far as how bad West Virginia looked, I mean, they just looked terrible last week, and really for that reason, I just can't see them trying to keep it close, especially for how bad their defense is. I don't think Pittsburgh by any means has an extremely high-powered offense, but they are. I think they're good enough to put up 20 to 30 points up against this West Virginia team, maybe even more. So. I think it'll be a close first half. I think the stadium will be rocking, but I think come around third quarter, Pittsburgh should be able to pull it away, maybe a 2-possession game. Also give me Pittsburgh. But for the record, I usually do pick this game incorrectly if anyone's listening for the first time. So that being said, maybe you want to hedge me, a little bit and go the other way. But right now I'm feeling Pittsburgh. I think they should be able to cover the touchdown spread.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games that is just wonky every year. It's hard to get a grasp on it. So if you're not confident, just stay away. That's probably the best advice we give here. But should be a fascinating game. They always deliver some nice highlights and everything throughout the games.
I wish this game should be at night. This game should be like an 8 p.m. Actually, even it should be like a 10 p.m. It should be something like just late 10 or 11 p.m. East Coast. It would add so much more hype to it, to be honest.
Some of the West Virginia fans might not be able to make it in if they're drinking all day till 10 p.m., but that would be a nice challenge.
That's actually good. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got to keep it early if they want to fill up the stadium. Always a good one. Pittsburgh, West Virginia. I'll definitely be watching that one. All right, moving right along. This is a ranked unranked matchup. We have the number 18 for the first time in 7 years, ranked South Florida, going to also in South Florida, Miami, number 5 Miami, who got the big win over Notre Dame week 1. Pretty big spread here, Paisley, 17.5. Ranked on ranked games, 17.5 points. Total is 57.5. This game. Also, quick side note to that AP voter that still has Florida ranked and not USF. Not sure what she was doing, but clearly didn't see the results last week. This game's going to be fun to watch. Of course, you see the spread. It's almost impossible to pick USF out right here. It would be absolutely miraculous if they did. And if they did beat Miami, they'd probably be a top 5 team. But I don't think USF's quite there. But the question is, could they keep this thing within 17.5? I think maybe they could. Paisley, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, apparently with the AP voter, if you lose as a 17-point favorite, you move up 2 spots. So I don't know how that logic works. But in this game last week, that was one of my biggest regrets not betting was USF plus 17.5 against Florida in this similar spot last week. I really wanted to do it. Didn't see anybody else was on them. The line was kind of staying fair. Watched that whole game, and it was just an ugly, low scoring. It was perfect if you had a team with 17.5 points. So I wanted to do it again this week, but I'm actually going to go on the other side here, Case. I'm going to lay it with Miami. I just think, again, I love this USF team. They're really good. We shouted them out in the recap pod on Sunday night. Got to give them their flowers, but this is just a tough ask for any team, especially coming off of that win, a program-defining win, honestly, in-state rival there. So now you got to pack it all up and go on the road again to a top 5 team. It's just such a tough spot. I know everybody now this week is on Miami. Everyone thought Florida was going to do that to them last week, and it didn't turn out. But I do think it's a little different. I trust Miami a lot more than Florida, which is crazy to think in 2025 here. But I do think Miami had a nice, easy spot last week. They got their offense looking right again. I think they put the lumber down just because of a spot situation. Now, if this was later in the year or if it was reversed, if this was week 2, I'd probably look to USF. But I feel like you said, just a horrendous spot for USF. Nothing against them. I think they show okay, but by the end of the third, fourth quarter here in that Miami heat, I know they're used to it, but that's a lot of energy they spent the first 2 weeks. Now you got to go again to a top 5 team. So I just feel like it's the Cinderella story might be running out here, and I think Miami puts a big hurting on them, especially late in the game here.
Good points. I think it, like you said, it might be a little bit too late almost to bet the spread here, just because I think the week to do it would have been last week. Kind of non-ranked USF, there's no hype around them. Kind of under the radar game, even though South Florida beat Boise week 1, we didn't really know how good Boise was, so a lot of uncertainty. I think Miami's going to win this game. First one, I'm going to slightly disagree on the spread. I feel like I got to break somewhere. It's just a ton of points. I think Miami's just going to make a few Miami mistakes. I think they're clearly better. I think they're more talented. I think they might even be ahead. They might be covering at one point in this game. Like I could see them third, fourth quarter getting up to that 21 mark. But I think I've been impressed. I've seen enough, especially against Florida last week, and what they were able to do to Boise. I think they could keep this game close. I think it could. I think they could hold Miami a little bit without it getting out of hand, and I just think they could find a way to at least cover these points. I'm not in love with it, but if I have to pick a side, I think I've seen enough out of South Florida where they could at least keep this thing close. I'll be rooting for them too. Would love to see an absolute stunning game here, but give me South Florida. Don't love it. Maybe maybe if I could get another point or two, it'd be great. But I think they could try to keep this thing within 3 possessions.
Yeah, the number does feel super high. I mean, it's baked into it. Like Vegas also watches these games and knows the spot too and stuff. And one little bonus play, I actually do like the over in this one too. It actually was below the key of 55. I think it was 53, 54 when it came out. Now up to 57.5, but I still like it. I think it's just going to be a lot of points for Miami in general. I think they would have had a good game, but like I said, they're going to wear down USF late. And I do like USF's offense enough to maybe get enough points to put this over the 57.5. So kind of do like the over too in this game.
And basically, do you think, would it be fair to say USF, even with a loss here, is probably the driver's seat for the Power Four? I mean, of course, or the Group of Five, they'd have to take care of business, I guess, the rest of their schedule. But if they're as good as they look right now, I mean, look at their remaining schedule. It is bad. Like, it is below average. Like, even for a Group of Five team, it's like South Carolina State, Charlotte, North Texas, FAU. We talked about them a little bit a couple of weeks ago. They almost lost their entire roster. So they got a few bright future, I think, even with the loss here.
No, I agree. And I think they could lose 2 more games, but if they win their conference championship, I think they could still get in because of how bad these Group of 5 teams are. We talked about Boise not living up to it. The Sun Belt is really not that good. Liberty, we were talking about before the pod, they were supposed to be the team out of the Conference USA. They look terrible. So I don't think James Madison had that loss to Louisville. They looked okay, but I think out of the top tier teams, I think they have a little wiggle room now with that Florida win. I think it really helped them. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they lose this Miami game, run the table the rest of the way, win the conference. Absolute shoo-in, but I think they could even slip up one more time as long as they win that conference champion in the American. I still think they got some wiggle room now to get in.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun to watch for them, see if they could actually get to the playoff after their great start of the year. Crazy, we were talking about them maybe being 0-3 and a good team, and here they have a shot to maybe be 3-0, at least 2-1, and with their quality wins this early.
Yeah, and last point, but they also, as I'm thinking about this, they have the head-to-head over Boise. So if they're looking at something at the end of the year, they do have that head-to-head win at home against Boise, who I think is maybe their biggest competition in the Group of 5 to get into that playoff spot at the moment. So, but yeah, that's just another factor. They got a lot of things pointing their direction.
And the head-to-head over Florida if Florida decides to go Group of 5.
That is true.
Which they maybe should. All right, moving right along. And now we have the Florida Gators going to number 3 LSU. Florida just kind of highlighted them with the big loss to USF last year. First time they let that happen at home, nonetheless. Billy Napier's seat could not be hotter, I don't think. I don't think we've ever seen a hot as a seat this early in the season and still have a job. Going to LSU, which is a little bit different. They get the big win over Clemson. Week 1 looking good. They struggled a little bit last week against Louisiana Tech, but may have just been from that big win week 1. So they're opening up here. They are a 7.5-point favorite. So interesting number there, kind of just for being number 3 in the country to a team that just lost to South Florida. But totals at 47.5. This is a night game in Death Valley. They say it's the best place to go in the country, loudest to go at LSU at night. So we'll see if that's true. Paisley, what are your thoughts? Here's Florida. Do they have any life here to bounce back and potentially win this game or cover at least?
That's a great question. Now, with all this stuff surrounding it, this is going to be the week. It's kind of like a put up or shut up week. Like, are these teams going to bounce back? Are they legit, or are they just god awful and it's going to be a long, long season? I mean, it's just this is a brutal spot for Florida, again, coming off that loss. But again, sometimes these losses really rally the team, really get them back on track, a little more focused, a little more motivated. So this could be the week at all these games that we kind of talked about. You could either look like a genius for taking some of these teams, with really inflated or deflated lines. Like this game in the summer or in the past would not be 7.5 or over a touchdown. So you could look really smart if you take Florida plus the 7.5 and they keep it close, or you could look like an idiot and be like, why did I bet on this team that is in the dumpster and on fire? So It's a really scary week to take some of these teams. I really would like to. I kind of like playing these teams in these spots, or kind of to go contrarian if you can. But I kind of do like LSU in this spot, even before this matchup here against USF the week prior. I think if this gets below 7, I'd like to take a stab on LSU, just because, like you were saying, the trajectory of the program, a lot of questions. Didn't Florida have somebody spit on somebody too? I think there's been a lot of spitting going on in football, but just seems like the team's out of control. The head coach is definitely worried about other things. So I feel like this either could be a really bounce back, save your season type, or it could be the start. Your season already is on the decline last week, and it's just going to keep going downhill. So I think if they have to get one, this would probably be the week to do it, Case, because they also, the next 4 games, at Miami, hosting Texas, at Texas A&M. Like that is just brutal after a tough loss like this. So if they really want to get back on track, it starts this week. But I kind of do like LSU here to win by double digits. I think they'll weather the storm. I like their defense enough. I think that game, like you said, against Louisiana Tech was kind of just a fluke because of all the energy they put into the 1-0 as they made T-shirts about and everything. But I think they get back on track this week at home under the lights. It's still a large number, so that's why it's tough either way. You're either going to look like a genius or an idiot. So I do kind of like LSU here in this spot to get it done.
Yeah. Great points. And I tend to agree. I think Florida, I declared their season over last week. I think just because of how their schedule's impossible, and 18-16 against South Florida, you got to be able to put up more points. You're the Florida Gators. DJ Lagway looks terrible. And I think just the edge for the spread for me, like I would think, LSU wins this game even in Gainesville. I mean, South Florida did, so I'm sure LSU would too. But anyway, this game at home being at LSU, I think Garrett Nussmeier, I think they're going to try to score some points here. I think this game could get away late in the fourth quarter. 7.5 is just not enough for Florida, what I've seen so far. So yeah, I agree. I'm all over LSU. I think this one will definitely be one I probably add to my slate too. I'll wait. I'll see what happens to the spread. Maybe we could get it down to 6.5. I'll probably hammer it if that happens. But even Florida 7.5, honestly, even 8.5, I think I'm still on LSU in this one. It's just Florida. I've been so underwhelmed by the Gators here, how they opened up the season. Supposed to be the hype was there too. They were like preseason 15, bringing back a lot of guys. DJ Lagway, Napier. They should have fired him last year, giving him all these chances just to open up at home. Unforgivable loss, I would say, Paisley, for me. So give me LSU.
No, and you're right. Just the way it happened, looking ugly, 16-18. Like it wasn't even like, oh, you did really good, but the defense just let you down. Like it was just messy all around, and stuff. So yeah, I feel like I would love to back a team with some motivation and trying to, prove everybody wrong. But this Florida team is different in a bad way. I just do not want to get behind them. Yeah. Lagway looks terrible. He looks really, really bad. So, but I don't know. This could be the week, but I do trust LSU a little bit more in the circumstances and everything.
Yeah, certainly not a Joe Burrow Cincinnati Bengals situation going on for Florida, losing because of the defense here. This is an 18-16 loss against whatever, USF. So no matter how you spin it, Florida's just not quite at that LSU caliber. Unless we were totally fooled about LSU. Maybe that happens. But as right now, I'm still on LSU.
Yeah, Clemson looked pretty terrible. So, that win looks a little worse. Right. But again, there's still so many questions about a lot of these teams. It's not set in stone with all of them. So,
Yeah. Great points. All right. Now to the South Bend, Indiana. Mr. Paisley, got that flag behind you. Number 8, Notre Dame, hosting number 16, Texas A&M. A little bit of a revenge game for both teams. Notre Dame trying to bounce back from 2 weeks ago. A&M trying to bounce back from a season ago when they lost. Notre Dame here, 6.5-point favorite. Feels like a lot of points for having an SEC team ranked coming to town. Texas A&M seems to be overrated every year, in my opinion, but here they are. Maybe this will be finally their year going to South Bend. Really a big game for Notre Dame. Really do not want to start 0-2 for the way that their schedule lines up. Obviously, no conference championship to rebound, so these games are really important. They don't have those opportunities late. 6.5 total at 49.5. Paisley, what are your thoughts here? Are the Irish going to roll?
I hope so. I would like that as a fan, and it would make me feel a lot better about the season. But I do agree. I think the line's a little high, and I hate to do it against my team that I root for and stuff. But I saw this at 7.5, 7. I think I would lean Texas A&M if we want to start there on the spread. I think you're right. I think it's just too many points. I think these are just very much overreacting or very spot dependent. You're right. Notre Dame did lose week 1. They really need this game. As you said, this is their last kind of big game until USC. And then after that, it's not really anything big down the road. So they really need this one and really need a good win on their resume to build it here. But I like them to win the game. But I just think it's going to be a back and forth game. I think both teams are very different than what they looked like last year. Now, we only have one sample size in Notre Dame. I did get to catch both Texas A&M's week 1 game and week 2. against Utah State and UTSA. Texas A&M gave up a lot of points. I was really surprised by both the teams moving the ball. They scored 21 plus. So my favorite play in this game is actually the over. I bet it at 48.5 right when it came out. I like Notre Dame's team total over 27.5. I also bet that. So check your current numbers, but if you get them below 28 on the team total and under 50, I would say is good for the total overall. I think it's just a different style than we saw last year. Last year was such a low scoring game, defensive battle, but I think both offenses improved a lot, and I think both defenses are really taking a step back in both team scenarios. So I think Texas A&M, Marcel Reed actually looked really good throwing the football. That was one of the areas that he really struggled with last year. He was only known as a runner, but he has a lively arm. He's really throwing the ball with confidence. You'll probably see in this game. Different animal going up against Notre Dame's defense versus UTSA and Utah State. But he did look very confident. I think they're going to put up their fair share of points to get this over the total. I think Notre Dame's going to have to be more an offensive team this year because I just don't think the defense is as good as we thought, and I don't like the defensive coordinator, at least right now. You saw what the Bengals looked like week one. They looked really good on defense. Well, that's the Notre Dame defensive coordinator that left. I think that's going to really hurt them long term here. So I think they're a little bit softer defense. Let's see if they change things up, if they get a little more aggressive, if they play a little more man. But I think if they drop back in their zone and play kind of a softer style, I think Marcel Reed could pick them apart and they can move the ball and score some points. But I think on the flip side, UTSA and Utah State both ran all over Texas A&M. Now, Notre Dame didn't choose to elect to run the ball against Miami, which was very frustrating. I think they're going to listen. They're going to watch the game film and be like, we got to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to try and feed Love and Jadarian Price early in the game. So I would expect Notre Dame to be a little more physical running the ball and have a little more success on the ground. So I feel like match those two. I just feel like this total should be a little bit higher. So I'm really confident in the over. And then if I had to pick a side, I would take Texas A&M plus the 7. I think Notre Dame wins this game by 3 or 4 points. I think it's a back and forth game, but I think Notre Dame does enough. They're more a complete team, I feel like, than Texas A&M, and they get the job done at home, look good on offense doing it. If the defense could step up, I think they can win this by margin, but I just don't trust the defense early on here enough to say they could win by 7, 10 plus against an SEC team.
Yeah, and to your point too, at home, I'm a big aesthetics fan in college football here. Atmosphere should be great there. 7:30 kick, so should certainly be rolling. Yeah, good point on the A&M defense. Yeah, giving up 24 to UTSA, 22 to Utah State. So I feel like Notre Dame should be able to score points. To your point, they need to run the ball. I don't know why they really didn't do it against Miami. I was watching that game. I couldn't really believe it. What did Jeremiah Love? He had like 8 carries or something all game. It was very low. I just couldn't believe it. So they had a week to sit and look at the film. I think they will bounce back here. I hate to be on your side, Paisley, in like 6 out of 7 games. It's just probably not great for the page. Could be good if we win. Could get a lot of wins on Saturday. But I'm also going to take A&M with the points in 6.5. I just think the SEC, it's just a lot of points in a ranked game. I think, like you said, it'll be back and forth. I think it could be 3-4. I think it will be high scoring, though. I like that read a lot just based off of what we've seen from the defense. But I think Notre Dame will find a way to squeeze it out. I think it'll be close. I was a little underwhelmed against Miami. I was a little higher on them going into the season. Now, after that performance, I'm second guessing the defense a little bit. But yeah, I think if they run the ball, I think they could score points. I think A&M, they'll be able to score a little bit of points to keep this thing close, just based off of what we've seen from both teams so far. So give me Notre Dame close. I think A&M should be able to cover the spread. Like you said, if you could get it at 7 and 7.5, I think that's great in a game like this. But even that 6.5 number, I think I'd be comfortable with. So yeah, give me the Aggies with all the points.
Yeah, it's just a little scary laying this high number. You got to factor everything into play. And then just a couple other points. One, Notre Dame really ran the ball well last year on them. And they had a little bit of ground attack with Riley Leonard, but Texas A&M's defense was supposed to be really good last year. They've definitely taken a step back this year. So I feel like Notre Dame has to have some success running the football here. And like you said, I think they're going to watch the film. They had that weird week 2 bye, so they could actually look at some film, really rest up only after 1 week. So that there's no excuse for Notre Dame. You're at home here. You're in a good spot. So if they look bad, this could be really troubling for the rest of the year. As a fan, I'm really hoping they bounce back and bump some confidence. And haven't talked about him, but CJ Carr looked pretty good, actually, in that loss to Miami. He was like the only bright spot in that game. So I feel like if you could be confident in that game 1 in a hostile environment, you should be even better now coming back home and just to build off of that. So should be a fun one, though. I'm going to be glued to it. 7:30 should be fun.
Yeah, and great point on CJ Carr looked pretty good, and coming off the bye, there's really no excuse. You had a week to prepare. You could look at both teams, so more of a reason to, that you should be decently confident here in the Irish getting the win. All right, so we got one more game here to preview, then we'll get into our picks, and then what, of course, everybody's waiting for is the Underdog Parlay of the week, of course, coming up at the conclusion of the episode. Close things out Saturday night, 7:45 p.m. A lot of great home atmospheres. LSU, Notre Dame, and now South Carolina, Vanderbilt coming to town. The mighty Commodores coming off of a great season last year, going to 11th ranked South Carolina. Spread's pretty tight though, Paisley, 4.5 points only. Totals at 48.5. What are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, I'll keep it simple in this one, Case. I love Vanderbilt here in this spot. I just think they're a better team. I'll take the points. I'll take the money line. Love Vanderbilt here. I love what they did last year. They're very similar this year with Diego Pavia, quarterback. Very grinded out, run game, misdirection. Defense is still, solid, not too great, but I just feel like this Vanderbilt offense is very hard to prepare for. I'm selling all my South Carolina stocks. We talked about preseason after that week 1 win. They had a punt return. They had an 80-yard touchdown pass off of a blown coverage. So I feel like that week 1 score was a little inflated. So this is more, I'm selling South Carolina. I bet Vanderbilt a lot last year, and they came through a lot. They are a great underdog to be betting on, like in that Alabama game that we previewed last year. I remember talking about that. So I just really like Vanderbilt here. I think they're the better team, and I think they'll show it here. Coming off a nice win at Virginia Tech. It's a little tough now going from Virginia Tech to South Carolina, 2 tough road atmosphere to play, but they was close at halftime, and Vanderbilt then ended up winning by 21, 24 points against VT. So they look really impressive. So I do like Vanderbilt to get another big key road win here.
No, it's huge, and it's very rare this early in the season. Both these teams have the common opponent of Virginia Tech this early in the year, which is rare, and it's a good point. I mean, Vandy looked actually better against Virginia Tech than South Carolina did. The alternative is South Carolina has all the hype. They have Lenore Sellers. They have some of that around them, and of course it's at home. And it's a pretty low number. I was kind of going back and forth on this game. I'm going to lean South Carolina. I think at home, I think they'll be able to get the win. I think it's going to be close, though. Will not be stunned here if Vanderbilt wins. I don't think you'll see this on my card on Saturday. I don't think I love it. But I don't know. There's so much hype around Vanderbilt. I'd love to see them. I mean, if they get this win, they're probably in the top 25. They'd probably have back-to-back seasons ranked. I'm not sure when the last time that's really happened for them. Because I think last year was like the first time in like 10 or 15, it's crazy amount of years. They have a lot of going for them. I think this is going to be a great game to watch. I know you'll be pretty much glued to the Notre Dame game, but yeah, this should be a good game. Great night slate. Lean South Carolina. I don't really have a great play on the total on this one, but should be fun. But I think South Carolina will find enough just late with their star power to pull away maybe by 7 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is very low, and that's another one that's kind of head-scratching number, but I was kind of liking a Vanderbilt team total. I haven't looked at that yet, but I think they'll have some success against South Carolina's defense, so I'd take a look at that as well.
All right, now we get to our picks of the week. I think we got 4 each, and we get to the Underdog Parlay of the week. I guess, Paisley, I'll let you lead it off here. What are some of your preliminary picks here heading into the weekend?
Yep, I'll start us off with a little North Texas -6. They are hosting Washington State. This number is opened up at 4.5 up to 6. So I do like the Mean Green here. I just think they're an all-around team. They're really solid out of the Sun Belt. I think they could really, or the American, sorry. I think they could really challenge for a conference title as kind of a dark horse. Talked about them on the preview pod before the season, but really like what they're doing on the defensive side. Their offense has always been good. And a big sell in Washington State. I was not a fan of them after that week 1 against Idaho. I think they got a win in week 2, if I'm not mistaken, but did not look good in doing so. The offense just looks really broken. So I think they're going to struggle a lot going to North Texas here against that solid defense. So I do like North Texas here to win by a touchdown here is my first play.
No faith in the Pac-2?
No faith in the Pac-2, unfortunately.
Now I like to pick North Texas -6. I'm going to go to New Mexico, taking them with 15.5 points. They are going on the road to UCLA this week. New Mexico, not a great team, but they played Michigan tough week 1. I think there's some flashes there. I think they could at least keep this thing close. And UCLA, it's more so just being so down on them. They look terrible. They look a mess. There'll probably be 12 people in the stadium there at the great Rose Bowl. So that'll be disappointing. Would not recommend watching it. But I just think that's too many points. And in fact, I wanted to pick New Mexico. I might put a little bit on them just on the money line here, just I think UCLA is so dead in the water. Not a lot, maybe, less than a half a unit. I mean, a few bucks to see what happens. But no, I'm all over the spread. I'm really liking New Mexico here. I think I've seen enough. They kept it close against Michigan. I think they could keep this thing within 15 and a half. That's just too many points, I think, right now for UCLA, really for anybody that they play.
Yeah, I totally agree. UCLA is terrible. I've also watched that full game, which I wish I didn't against UNLV last Saturday. They couldn't move the ball, and against a terrible UNLV defense. Nico is not the guy. I'm really selling UCLA big time, so I'm with you on that one. I like that. I'm going to go second play, Old Dominion +7 with the in-state rival Virginia Tech. They are going to Virginia Tech. I think they won this game a couple of years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago as a big underdog. But Old Dominion's a different program now. They are solid. I think this program's on the up and up. They covered week 1 against Indiana and actually looked pretty decent in doing so. I think they're a really solid team out of the Sun Belt. I think they're another kind of like North Texas, an under-the-radar team that could vie for a conference championship with not a lot of teams in that conference looking good. So I'm selling Virginia Tech after watching that whole game. They just do not look good. Drones is not the guy. He's just not a good quarterback. They're trying to make it work. That's another coach who's on the hot seat, and Bren Pry, I think it is. He is not having a good couple seasons there. You should be winning a little bit more in a down ACC at Virginia Tech. So I just don't like the way the program's going there. This one also opened up 9.5 down to 7. So I think Old Dominion is a nice feisty underdog here this week, and could keep it close. So give me the Monarchs of Old Dominion +7.
I like it. Yeah, former Penn State defensive coordinator Brent Pry will be getting fired soon. Maybe he'll join the staff as an assistant in a few years. Come back. No, I like it. ODU +7. I'm going to go here. Something I don't do too often. I'm going to have a little total play. I'm going to take the over here in Ole Miss. I'm going over 61.5. Arkansas coming to town at Ole Miss. I don't think Lane Kiffin is happy really about how the game ended against Kentucky last week. I know they won, but I think we're going to see some points. I think Arkansas is a little bit better than people are thinking this year. I don't think they're great. I think they're probably bottom of the SEC still, but I think this is a recipe for a lot of points. I think Ole Miss will like to score, and I think late they'll let a few slip up. I think this will be a closer game, but I think we're going to see a lot of points. Give me the over 61.5 here.
I like it. It's also on my radar to watch that one. Arkansas's defense is horrendous, so Ole Miss could kind of name their number. But Arkansas's offense is not bad. Taylor Green from Boise State still there. He has a good grasp of the system. He's a really solid quarterback. So kind of don't mind the over there, Case. Good play. I'm going to go back to the well here, back-to-back weeks with Duke -1.5. This one just surprised me. I'm very shocked the spread is so low going to Tulane. Mensa trying to look for some revenge or vice versa, going back to his old school. I just can't believe this is right around a pick 'em. I thought Duke would be favored by a lot more. So I just think that the final score was a little more misleading than what people thought with the Illinois game because it got so out of hand late. Duke was really moving the ball nice. I think they were averaging like 7 yards a play. I think I look back in that box score. So Duke really had a solid game. Just the turnovers killed them, and I don't think they're going to turn it over 5 times against Tulane here. And Tulane, I'm kind of selling. That was kind of everybody's team last year. I kind of liked them as a dark horse and as a G5 representative last year. But this year, I just don't see it. I think they lost way too much. I don't like the quarterback. So I just can't believe this spread is this low. I think this is a way too much of an overreaction against how Duke looked against Illinois. So I'll gladly take the -1.5 money line, whatever way you like to slice it up. But I think Duke bounces back nicely here and really controls the game and beats Tulane by, I'll say double digits. I'm that confident this might be a lock coming into the week.
I'm glad you said it, and I'm glad we talked about this game because I saw that too, and I can't fathom why. I actually am not picking it because I feel like I feel like I'm falling in some sort of trap.
Yeah, no, and it opened up 2.5. They were +2.5. I was watching the board early, like they were getting close to being +3, and I didn't pull the trigger, and I was pissed. But yeah, this should not be a pick 'em, I don't think, unless I'm missing something completely.
Yeah, no, I love it. We'll see. Yeah, Duke -0.5. If that holds, I'll likely be on that Saturday as well. I'm going to pick my third pick here. Western Michigan going to Illinois, getting 27.5. This is just one of those games. Illinois coming off the big win. You just talked about it with Duke last week. Things broke their way. I think spirits are very high in Illinois right now. I think they jumped into the top 10. And it's just a little bit of a sell on them. I don't think they should expect too much trouble here. but 27.5 is a lot of points. Western Michigan, I think, had a tough game. They went to Michigan State week 1. They held them to 23 points. Not that Michigan State's all that great, but they look good against Boston College. They put up 40 points, last week against them. So Western Michigan is 0-2. They lost in overtime also to North Texas last week, but was able to put up 30 points. So I think they're going to be able to score a little bit. I don't expect Illinois to pull away drastically by 5-6 touchdowns. Might get close with this number, but too many points for the Illini, I think. Give me Western Michigan with 27.5.
Nice. And yeah, a little bonus nugget too, Case. This is a good spot for Western Michigan because of the Duke game last week. And Illinois is playing at Indiana next week. So they're definitely looking forward to that one. So great sandwich spot here, plus 4 touchdowns. Love that play as well. I'm just kind of waiting until it gets to 28.5, but I do like that play as well. And then for my last play, we're going to go dumpster diving as we always do. We love to give you guys one that is nobody will be watching. Probably only 10 people will be tuning in on ESPN Plus for this one. Middle Tennessee State plus 9.5 going on the road to Nevada. This one is more just, I don't believe this number is right either. These teams are both very terrible. Nevada, if you're a Penn State fan, watch them in week 1 with their 10-plus turnovers that they had in that game. They couldn't even get the ball 5 yards without getting a turnover. They looked good on that last drive against Penn State's third strings. But I just think Nevada is terrible. I think Middle Tennessee's terrible, but they should not be laying 9.5 here. This game should be a lot closer in the spread. So that's kind of my analysis on this one. This is 2 ugly teams going at it. I was just very surprised this is close to 10 points here. I think this, numbers matter as we talk about all the time. I just think Middle Tennessee State does enough here to keep this somewhat close. I just feel this number is way too high.
I love it. Shining some light on Middle Tennessee State, Nevada. That'll be good to watch. I love it. 9.5. No, I like it. I'm gonna go my final pick here. Boston College closing out Saturday night. I think it actually might be the last game here, or close to. Hawaii, kicks off after, but 10:30. Give me Boston College laying 13.5 points. They're going to Stanford. Stanford's bad. Stanford's really bad, and Boston College showed me enough against Michigan State that I think they're a formidable team. And they kind of baited me on this number. I think 14.5. I may have looked the other way, but sitting at that 13.5 number right now, I think they'll hammer this one. I think they'll win by 2 touchdowns. Give me the Eagles with minus 13.5.
Yeah, this one was 10-11, so it's actually is going the right direction, Case, in this play here. And I'm telling you, watch that quarterback at BC. I think if you're a big college football fan, I think he's going to probably transfer to another big-time school next year. So keep your eye on that. I'm just kind of calling my shot there. He's a really, really good quarterback. I think a lot of power teams are going to be looking for him in the transfer portal.
Love it. All right, Paisley, it's the best time of the week right now. We got our Underdog parlay of the week. We hit it last week. We got the big win. I think we're like plus 5.5 units or something like that. It was like plus 530. I guess I will. I'll kick it off this week. I think you kicked it off last week. I'm going to go Bowling Green outright, plus 195 odds right now over Liberty as my pick. We talked about Liberty a little bit. They lost to Jacksonville State last week, 34-24. Western Michigan, I don't think it's all that great either. But I think they are at least. Or sorry, what was I going to say? Yeah, Bowling Green. Plus 195 over Liberty. Sorry, I mixed up games. Liberty lost their quarterback last year. So I don't know. I'm really low on Liberty. I think we both kind of are. They returned some guys, but plus 195 you can't beat. I don't know what the spread on this game was. I think it was like 9 or 10 points. That's why the money line is so high. But I think they'll get the win. Give me Bowling Green outright.
Bowling Green quarterback Drew Pine, still in college from Notre Dame 3 years ago. Love him. Hopefully comes up big for us here. Shout out Drew Pine. And I'll round us off, Case, with Vanderbilt. Broke it down earlier. Love them against South Carolina. I think they're going to pull off the upset in South Carolina's home turf. So give me Vandy plus 150. Love them in this game. I'll take them out around the money line for total odds of plus 635. We are 1-0 the year. We hit plus 530 last week, so we were off to a great start, up over 5 units. So let's get another one up over 6 units.
I love it. And nothing would feel better than cashing a Bowling Green and Vanderbilt ticket on Saturday night.
Love it. Go Eagles, baby. Bowling Green.
All right, folks. We will see you all, I guess, recapping on either Sunday or Monday. You're not going to want to miss it. And then we'll be back a week from now for the Week 4 preview.